Okay, we will make a start. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our introductory training for Just Too Easy. So my name is Nikki Kimball. I'm one of the educational consultants here at Just Too Easy, and we're going to be covering quite a lot of content today. So let's have a little look-see, shall we? So session housekeeping before we get started. I am scheduling it as a 1-hour webinar due to finish by 4:30. If you need to get off for whatever reason, please feel free. You can catch the recording of this. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel at some point in the next week, hopefully, if I manage to catch up. Questions can be asked via the chat function as we go along. So I do have that open on my second screen. So I will try and answer those questions as we go along. But I will also offer a Q&A session at the end of the training as well. So if you've got anything else that you want to ask me, then you can. In today's session, we are going to be having a look at what is Just Too Easy, because I've noticed there's quite a few that are brand new to the site. So we're going to be going right back to basics and what it is and how you can access Just Too Easy for the various different providers that we've got. I'm also going to showcase the Just Too Easy support that we have to offer via the teachers area. There's a lot of different avenues of support that you can access. And then we're going to start looking at the tool suite itself. So as part of that, I am going to give you some quick win activities with some JIT Write and J2 Create examples. So we're going to have a look at how those tools work. I'm going to show you how you can get your pupils logged in really quickly and easily using our QR code logins. I'm going to show you how you can access and share content from your My Files and access your pupils' content. We may get round to using learning conversations, depends how I do for time. Then we're also going to have a very quick chat about J2 Journal. I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it. I'm just going to sort of show what it is and how it can be used, because we are doing a training, a full hour's training for that on Monday. So if that is of interest, you can join us for that. And then I'm going to show you some resource library activities, so some pre-made templates ready for you to use with your pupils. And as promised, questions and answers at the end of the session, if we haven't already answered your questions. Okay, so right from the beginning, what is Just Too Easy? So some of you may have used the site a little bit, so you may already be aware. Some of you, by the looks of the registration form, are completely brand new to the site. So you may be wondering what we are. So we are a learning platform that is designed specifically for teaching and learning. So unlike other tool suites or platforms that you may be using in schools that are designed for business and shoehorned into education, many of which may be not age appropriate for especially some of our younger students, we are designed for children to use. You'll notice that we're a very colourful site. Where we can, we are icon based, very visual for the children, and the interface will stay the same no matter what device you use. And I think that's a really important point to stress, is that if the children are accessing on an iPad, it's going to look no different from yours that you're showcasing on your panel or your interactive whiteboard. Whenever we are getting the children to use the tools, we want them to be able to create, share and learn, and to do that as quickly as possible and easily as possible, hence the name Just Too Easy. It is a cross-curricular tool suite. So I've noticed there's a lot of you joining us from Northern Ireland and from Wales, where you already have that kind of cross-curricular delivery of technology, digital technologies. Unfortunately, we don't have that in England. It's very much a standalone, but we are designed to be used in a cross-curricular fashion. So I am going to show you how we can use it with a particular literacy focus today, but you'll notice there are other areas of the curriculum that you can integrate into using Just Too Easy. The tools are suitable from foundation stage all the way up to Key Stage 3 or your post-primary schools. We offer a number of different tailored support for a different range of diverse needs. The tool suite has a range of accessibility features built in for those that need it, such as text-to-speech, speech-to-text, and word lists, all of which I'm going to show you through some of our tools that we have today. We do offer multilingual support, so those of you that maybe have alternative bilingualism, so Welsh and Irish are both supported. That is an offer that we have, and you can turn your whole site into one of those languages. The tool suite promotes creativity and digital literacy, so it really supports the children to know how to navigate their way around a computer system. And it's integrated into various platforms, providing a secure, familiar environment for students at no extra cost. So those of you that are joining us from Hub and from C2K, you get this at no cost to yourselves as a school. We also support and promote strong homeschool links with an inbuilt parent portal. So your parents can log in via the parent portal. They can see what the children are doing. You can message them. They can access J2 Stars, homework, and journal. Now, what I will say with the parent portal and journal, if this is a journey that you're just beginning with Just Too Easy, if you are brand new to the site, your school is brand new to the site, try and get your pupils and teachers using it first, quite confidently, before you then expand into creating that parent portal aspect. Okay, but that is definitely something that we have to offer. So if any of you are paying for external providers such as Dojo or Seesaw, there may be some cost-cutting activities that we could support, that you already have access to this parent portal that does much the same as those paid platforms. In terms of accessing Just Too Easy, we are an online learning platform, so we are cloud-based. All of the tools work on any device, on all popular browsers. The tools include easy drag and drop cloud-based storage area with unlimited capacity. So our version is called the My Files area. It's much like your Google Drive or your OneDrive. Ours is called the My Files. Files are simple to share and collaborate with other users, classes, schools, and worldwide. You can drag any file into your My Files. It doesn't have to be just Too Easy content. You can drag in Word documents, Google documents, Adobe documents, whatever it is that you're using, you can centrally store them in Just Too Easy. Now, logging into Just Too Easy, this is never an easy slide to sort of explain, because we have so many people joining us from so many different areas. I have had a look at the registration form, so I do know that the majority of you are joining us from Hub and Northern Ireland, so Wales and Northern Ireland, should I say. So I will focus on those. But just be aware, if you are joining us from Glow, BGFL or LGFL, you will have your own button. So this is our j2e.com site. You can click on any of these buttons, whichever one applies to you, and you can use those credentials to log in. So for example, if you're joining us from London, you can join using your LGFL login by clicking on the LGFL button. Same with Hub. So our Welsh users, you can click on the Hub button and use your Hub credentials to log in. Sorry, yes, I've just seen the question. Yes, it will be accessible via recording once we're finished. So this is all being recorded and will be hosted on our YouTube channel. C2K schools, you can click on the EA button and use your C2K credentials to log in, and that will log you straight into Just Too Easy. Just be aware that we also have buttons within My School for C2K and within Hub, so you can log into both of those systems and go that way, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Oh, that's brilliant feedback. Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. So they've just wiped out their old Windows 10 laptops that were grinding to a halt, and added Linux, and Just Too Easy runs brilliantly. Yes, we do. So we are accessible via any device, anywhere. If anybody has any issues, then you can log those with support@j2e.com. Certainly this time of year, we do tend to get a few kind of, users missing and that kind of thing. So just drop us an email if you have any issues with logging in. Right. Once you are logged in, you'll land on our Launchpad. Okay, so this had a bit of a facelift this time last year. It's lovely, bright, colourful. We've also are in the transition process of streamlining your Launchpad. So for those of you that may have been using Just Too Easy for a little while, you might notice there's a few key tiles that are missing off your Launchpad, and I'll explain where those key tiles have disappeared to. So this is our Launchpad. So I'm just going to show you, once I've logged in, this is what it's going to look like. As I said earlier, your Launchpad will look almost identical to your student's Launchpad. You just have a couple of extra tiles. You have your pupil files, which obviously the pupils can't see each other's files, but that will allow you to see all of your pupil files. And you'll also have the teachers area tile. So those are the main differences between yours and the pupils files. Pupils Launchpad. My files, that is where you will find all of your saved content. So that's for both you and your pupils. So anytime a user saves anything, that's where you will find it. So if you click on My Files, it'll be there. Okay, and it's always that first tile on the left-hand corner. You do have the ability to be able to add tiles. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that, but I will show you how you can access a video that can help you with that. So if you do have any other websites, documents that you use regularly that you'd like to share with your students, for example, the spelling shed was always one that I used to use a lot. You can add that as a tile and share it with your students, so it is included in the tiles on your Launchpad. You'll also have the library, which we're going to look at later. So that is vast amounts of resources. Now, hub users out there, you don't have that by default, but there is a workaround with that. So there is a way to add that onto your Launchpad. So if that is something that is of interest, just let me know in the chat and I'll be sure to share how you can do that, or an article for you. Okay, your user settings are up here in the top right. So that is how you can change things like your site language and your password. Just click on your username and it will offer up all of your different options. There's also a little bell there, so you get any notifications. So notifications are for things like homework that's submitted, journal entries, journal comments, and you can tailor your notifications as well. So that can be done in the settings. Pupil Files is here, and we're going to look at that a little bit later, but that is where you will find all of your pupils' work. So all teachers can see all classes, which means you can see all pupils, which I think is really important from a middle and senior management perspective, that you can know what's going on at all times. Teachers area we're going to look at in a second. That is a very important addition. We only added that in a few months ago, and we're going to look at that on the next page. And we've also got the upload button. So if you do want to add anything in from other places, PDF worksheets you might have, Word documents, PowerPoints, worksheets, you can add those in by just clicking on that upload button. Okay, so those are the basics of the Launchpad. And then we'll have a little think about the teachers area. So as I said, this is brand new, and it's probably one of the most important tiles we've added in recently. It is a one-stop shop for you as a teacher, especially if you are brand new to the site and trying to get used to all the different aspects. Okay, Pupil Files, no, it does not need setting up, and I'll explain why in a second. So because most of you are from a managed service, you're from C2K or from Hub, from Wales, it will all be preset for you. So all the pupils will already be in the correct classes ready to go. So you don't need to worry about that. Okay, so teachers area is here. So I'm just going to show you from my Launchpad. So I'm going to click on my teachers area. So there's lots of different avenues of support for you. The What's On button, that is all of our upcoming live lessons, which have been launched this morning, and all of our staff training. So we're going to do one staff training session and one live lesson per week. So if you want to see my face twice a week, you can book on as many of those as you want, because I am responsible for delivering 95% of the online training. And we've got all different areas. So if we have a look, we did coding on Tuesday, we added an extra one in. We've got J2 Journal, the parent portal next week. We've got our live lessons as well. So live lessons are incredibly popular. We had 3,000 pupils joining us this morning to create a digital self-portrait using JIT Paint. So that was geared towards our P1 classes or our reception year 1 classes. And each week we'll have a different focus, either for a year group, a tool, and a context. So you can book on any of those. They are all free for you. The live lessons are fantastic because it helps you to see how the tools can be taught to a class and the kids create something at the end of the session. Okay. Now, all of that training and all of the live lessons are recorded and available on demand via our YouTube channel. So this session will be there. The live lesson we did this morning is already there. So you can visit there. That is where you'll find J2 Dashboard, which we're going to have a look at in a second. This is the support and frequently asked questions. So you can type a question into there if you want to know, for example, more information about JIT Paint. If you type JIT Paint into the support area, it will bring up a load of articles with step-by-step instructions. And then finally, you've also got the bookable 15-minute video calls, which are increasingly popular. I'm getting about 3 or 4 of these a day, where you can meet with me on a one-to-one, and we will discuss whatever issues it is. Maybe it's onboarding, maybe it's a tool that you want to use, maybe you're a bit interested about J2 Journal and want to know a bit more. You can book a 15-minute video call. Okay, so that is our teachers area. Blimey, that was a lot. Okay. So let's have a look at JIT, shall we? So we're going to specifically look at JIT Write. Now, I know there may be some Key Stage 2 teachers out there. I think there are still elements of JIT Write that you can use in Key Stage 2, but there's certainly things that carry across into J2 Create, which is more of a Key Stage 2 tool. So don't worry, I am going to be inclusive. I'm going to give a Key Stage 1 and a Key Stage 2 example activity. So JIT Write incorporates basic word processing functionality and the accessibility settings that we mentioned earlier. So text to speech, speech to text, and word lists are all available in JIT Write. So I'm going to open up JIT Write and we'll have a quick look. So JIT Write is here. Now, JIT itself is actually 8 tools within the same toolkit. So you'll notice the different tools are up here. They're all different tabs. So as we said earlier, that really helps to develop the children's digital literacy skills. So, you know, much like we would navigate between tabs in our internet browser, the children can navigate between the different tabs in JIT. So it helps to develop those skills. There are 7 other tools. So there's Paint for painting, Turtle for coding, Chart, Pictogram, and Branch are all data handling. Animate, which is your stop frame animation, which was always my favorite thing to teach, and Mix, which is an ebook creator. Now, we are running training sessions on almost all of these this term. There'll be a training session that includes all of those tools. So please have a look, as I said, in the teachers area and book on any courses that you think would be of interest. Now, the other thing just to point out is in JIT, the page colour changes colour. And I know that sounds really obvious to point that out. But from a classroom management perspective, it's really useful because you can stand at the back of the classroom or just stand up and you'll see instantly which child is off doing an animation instead of doing their writing. Because generally there's at least one child that's doing that, isn't there? We've all been there. So the JIT tools, again, with their consistent interface, they will prompt the children to choose a template background. And there are quite a few to choose from. We can scroll down here. Just let these people in. We can scroll down. We can see there's different backgrounds. There's some seasonal ones as we get further towards the bottom. Now, thinking about skills progression, you can also add in your own background. So that's done via the Pictures tab. So just to make you aware, you can make it more age appropriate. I used to do a nice image inspired poetry session. So I would get the children to either create their own background and add it in or add in a photo. So that can be done in the Pictures tab. But for today's example, I'm going to use hadn't planned this out. Let's use the C. So let's have a little reflection on our holiday. I know we're middle of September now. They've probably forgotten their holidays, but I only got back from holiday on Sunday, so it's still fresh in my mind. So you can see here my cursor is ready to go. The children don't need to click on the page, and I'm going to just put my holiday, and there we go. Few things that we can do. We can change the font size. And the one thing that I like about this is the children don't need to highlight anything. They can just click. So for anyone that's worked with year ones and below, the whole click, hold and drag is a really tricky skill to learn. So it's nice that they can still edit text without having to click, drag and highlight. There's 6 fonts. There's only 6 fonts, should I say. So they haven't got much choice when it comes to fonts. So they're not going to spend ages getting bogged down in how their text looks. And they've got 16 different colours that they can choose from. Okay, and they can sort of adjust how this looks. They've also got word lists. So these by default are closed. We can click on this word here, and that's going to open up a relevant word list. So because we've chosen the C background, we've got a water word list. So that's kind of assumed that you are going to want to use similar theme of words. And I can scroll over any of these words and I can listen to that word using the text to speech button.
Starfish.
Okay, so I might add some more text. I saw a, and I'm going to click on that word, and that is going to type that into my document. Now, the only thing that is different, because I know probably a lot of your students may be using touchscreen devices. The only thing that is different is obviously they don't have the hover function that we do when we have a mouse. So to listen to the word, they click on the word once. To add it onto their page, they have to double click. So that is the only major difference when it comes to a touchscreen device. Okay, now we can keep adding by just clicking on those words. You can access alternative word lists by using this little arrow button here. I think someone is having some trouble getting in to the training. And you can see there I've got all of my word lists that are available. Okay, so these are all the preset ones. I can create my own word lists. We're not going to do that today. If that's something that is of interest, you can find an article in the help desk in the support area. And that is done through JIT Create. Once it's added into JIT Create, it will be available. So you can see here I've got a Welsh word list, so I can listen to any of the Welsh words. Okay, so that is an option. Then last couple of bits, we've got our text to speech on the top right, so that will say everything that is on my page. So that's really good for children that might need that reflection on what they've written.
My holiday. I saw a starfish and a crab.
So they can listen back to it. So that moves that, what's the word? That need for the children to use an adult to reflect on their learning or what they've written. They can use that to listen back and hear if if their writing sounds good, if they can improve it at all. So you can implement that into that write review process. Then lastly, we've also got our speech to text button. So this works differently in that they dictate their work. Okay, so we can click. It's just one button. We click on that little microphone. You do have to dictate one sentence at a time. Okay, so I'm going to say, it was very hot on my holiday. And there we go. So it's going to dictate that. So that's really useful for children that maybe really struggle to get things written down. How do you add full stops? You can't when we're using speech to text, which I've highlighted. We pull this from somewhere else. So you do have to dictate a sentence at a time. It's very irritating, but we're working on how to improve that. So I have to add text. I can click and I can edit. I can add in punctuation where I need it, and then I can.
My holiday.
Listen.
I saw a starfish and a crab. It was very hot on my holiday.
Okay, so that's how we can add that in. And then lastly, in JIT, we have our record function, which I think sometimes gets missed. It's a fantastic tool for things like self-reflection, the children talking about their learning, or even just capturing evidence of them reading aloud. So maybe they've written their work and you want that evidence of speech and language, for example. Get them to hit the record button, say what they've written on the page, and then hit stop. So it's a very simple record, stop, OK, and that will link into that particular document. So let's have a go. My holiday. I saw a starfish and a crab. It was very hot on my holiday. And there we go. So that will link into that particular document. Then lastly, to save our work, we click on this little save button. So it's orange save button. It's always in the same place in JIT. And one thing that I like, it gives you the savey circle. Okay, I'm sure there's a technical word for that. I just call it the savey circle because it gives the children some feedback that something is happening, which you often don't get, which for younger children, they panic that nothing's happened and they save and save and save and save. The other thing you'll notice is the save button has grayed out, so the children can only save one copy of that unless they were to then make more changes, in which case it will allow you to save again. Okay, so you know that's always the most recent copy and you're not going to get 15 copies of the same file. Okay, so that is a quick introduction on how to use JIT. So these are just two examples. We've got kind of a key stage 1 focus. Obviously this summer we went to the beach. This is more of a key stage 2, sort of lower key stage 2, the Gruffalo. So thinking about a familiar story retell, and you can see there if I zoom in a little bit, they've retold the story, but they've also used things like font size to make that look so it's small, and they've used so obviously looking at adjectives. Okay, so that's a nice use of sort of progressing those skills. We've added that as a picture background. Okay, right, so I'm going to talk about accessing content, so how we can access our own work once we've saved it, and how we can access our pupils' work, which is always really important. So as I said at the beginning, our My Files is where you will find anything that you have saved or that a user has saved. So the students, once they've saved something, they would go into their My Files. So if I click My Files, this is what it's going to look like. So you can see there is that Write document that I've just created. There's my training presentation, and I can scroll down. You can see we did some self-portraits in my live lesson this morning, so it's a lot of faces. And I can scroll down and I've got all my sort of pieces of work that I need in reverse chronological order. Now, for those of you that like a folder, we do offer folders. So you can click on a new folder, you can title it and say, I don't know, self-portraits. And that is a drag and drop, so I can just drag files into that folder to create a folder. Okay. All these thumbnails, I can just click on them and it will open in a new tab, so I can see that piece of work. Audio, I can play directly from My Files. I don't need to. My holiday. I saw a starfish. I don't need to open that up. In terms of Pupil Files, there's a couple of different ways we can get to Pupil Files. If I go back to my Launchpad, I do have the Pupil Files there. Okay. But when I'm in my Files, you'll also notice here along the left, I've got my Pupil Files. So they both lead to exactly the same place. It just depends on where your starting point is. You know, if you're already on your Launchpad, you'll click on your Pupil Files. If you're in your My Files, you can go to Pupil Files. Now, because the majority of you are joining us from what we call a managed service, so C2K and Hub. So sorry if I'm excluding anyone, but that's just the majority that we've got here today. Your class structure will be preset from C2K or from Hub. If there are any issues, if you open one of these classes and you've got students missing or they're in the wrong class, that generally is your managed services issue. So you would need to go to C2K if you're a Northern Irish school, or Hub if you're a Welsh school, and they will be able to adjust the data, and then we will sync up eventually, okay, within 24 hours. So if you click on any of these classes, Okay, you will see all of your students. Now, your students might have slightly different titles. It really depends on how they're named in your service. So you can see here I've got first names, they may be their usernames, but you'll see all of your classes in there. So I can go to my pupil files, I can click in different classes, so I can see there's 90 pupils in here. And these numbers will dictate how many pieces of work there are in those pupil files. So for example, I can go to class 1. Lottie is my demo pupil, so I can have a look at Lottie. And that then shows me all the work that Lottie's been doing. So she's been doing some work on her holiday. She's done a book cover, some writing, some feelings monster work. And she's also, her parent has uploaded a photo. So that just gives you an idea of the capabilities in terms of the parent portal, in terms of sharing between home and school. So that is a photo of Lottie. Okay, so I can click in any of these pieces of work, and I can see exactly what that child has been doing with that particular piece of work. Okay, so that is how we can access our My Files and our Pupils files. Okay, right. We are going to talk about easy access using QR codes. I've just seen there's a question come in. There is no limit to top storage for any user, so it is unlimited storage for everybody. Okay, so hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, you don't need to delete anything to make space for anything else, which is possibly the most irritating thing to have to do as a teacher with a digital device. The second most irritating thing is trying to get children logged in, so that leads in nicely. We've all been there. Especially those of you that are teaching the youngest children, you will know the pain point that is getting children logged in to a site, especially when you've got 15 or 30 devices. So that's why we have designed these QR code logins. Now, I must, full transparency, these are not currently available to hub users. That's not our decision, I'm afraid. That is the powers that be. That is something that we are trying to work on, so please watch this space. I know every hub teacher that I talk to is upset by that. There's nothing I can do, I'm afraid. But for those of you that aren't from hub, these QR code logins can make things a lot easier. So there are two variations. Now I tend to sort of section these into younger students for the printable cards and older or more able students for the class code. So I would kind of show you the differences and why I'm explaining it in such a manner. So this is done through J2 Dashboard. Okay, so that is the back end of the site. That is now housed in the teachers area. So that is one of those tiles that if you've used the tool suite before, you might have noticed that it's disappeared. It's actually just been popped into our teachers area. So if I open up teachers area, and I'm going to go down to dashboard, it is here. Now, what I will say, this is one of these things that people says, oh, I can't remember how to create my QR codes. Or everything that I'm showing you today is in our YouTube channel. There is a whole section called tips and tricks. They're like 1 minute, 2 minute how-to videos. This in particular is one of those videos, how to create QR codes. Okay. So I'm going to open up J2 Dashboard. And I'm going to go to my classes tab here. Okay. And I'm going to go to this QR code button here. Okay. We don't need to highlight anything first. We just click on that QR code button and that will take me straight to the next page. So that's going to ask me to choose a class. So I'm going to choose my class out of my list. So I'm class 1. And then it's going to give me a few different options. So I won't worry about the parent codes, that's for your parent portal. Okay, login codes, those are for the younger children. Class codes, older or more able children. You can use the login codes for the entire school if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to click on the login codes, and that is giving me a PDF sheet that I can print off, laminate them if you really want to. Word of warning, the shiny laminates will possibly interact with cameras. So you might want to invest in just a pack of matte laminates for this particular activity. it can just alleviate some of those issues. You don't have to laminate them. I'm not instructing you to. You can just keep them as a piece of paper, but you will have one per student. So the students then open up their device, open up the camera, scan this, and it logs them in. No need for a username, no need for a password. Okay, students can still log in using their username and password. So if you are C2K, they can use their C2K login to log in, or Hub, they can log in using their Hub login. But for our Northern Irish students, they can scan this and it's going to log them in without having to use that great big long username that is devised by someone that clearly hasn't taught 5-year-olds how to log in. So your print button is up there. Okay, so that is the one option. The other option, I'm just going to choose my class again, is the class code. Okay, so this is different. You're not supposed to print this out. This you have on your screen at the front of the classroom, and the students hold up their device, scan the QR code. They then have to choose their name out of a list. So that's how it is slightly different and requires just a little bit more maturity in that you have to be able to trust them to choose their own name out of that, or recognize their own name and to pick their own name and not pick someone else's, and then that will log them in. Okay, now these only last 4 hours, so you can have that up on your board for the entire day if they needed to, you know, rescan it for whatever reason. The children will stay logged in. I think it logs them out after 6 hours. If they once they've been logged in, it logs them out after 6 hours. So that is how our logins work. So that is how we can generate QR codes. So hopefully that is going to eliminate that pain point of getting children logged into the site, ready to actually achieve some learning. Because I think, you know, we've all done those computing or ICT lessons where it's taking you 20 minutes to get them logged in, and then you've got 10 minutes to do the actual activity before you have to then spend 10 minutes logging out. So hopefully instantaneously you'll be in. Okay, so we're going to talk about J2 Create now. I'm going to spend a little over 10 minutes doing this. So J2 Create is a fantastic tool, and it is one that we create all of our presentations in. I like to describe it as the best mix of Microsoft Office, including Word, PowerPoint, and Publisher, if anybody still uses Publisher. I don't even know if it's still a thing. It's nice because you can add in text, you can add in photos, you can add in videos, sounds, multiple pages. The kids can add in content from other tools within Just Too Easy, so they can use the database tools and export charts into J2 Create. It's a really versatile tool. Now we're going to look at it from quite a simplified version. So we're just going to look at adding some text, sound, and pictures to get you just kind of used to how it looks, but just be aware there's a lot more to it. Okay. So you can add text, you can add pictures, you can change the background color, accessibility settings are all there in there, text to speech, speech to text. So all the things the children may be relying on already in JIT are available to access in J2 Create. You can utilize multimedia tools such as sound and video, and you can add things like hyperlinks as well. Okay, so J2 Create is here. Okay, it used to be called J2E5. So if we have got anybody that was familiar with the tool suite, you know, a couple of years ago, you may be aware that it was called J2E5. Luckily, it's been rebranded as J2 Create, because J2E5 didn't mean anything to anybody. And it is a digital piece of paper, essentially. So the first thing we can do is we can choose our page layout. So all of our page options are along the bottom here. Okay, so you can add in things like grids, so great for your maths activities. You can also add in paper backgrounds. So this little button here, we've got different paper backgrounds. Now what I will say is, if this is the first time you're teaching your children with J2 Create, factor in about 10 to 15 minutes of them going through every single paper background, because they're going to want to choose the most perfect one, or just don't show them. Once you've added in a paper background, if you want to get rid of it, you do have to click on that white box at the top. So sometimes that catches people out. Okay. This button here, that will change our page orientation from landscape to portrait. And this button here is our paper color. So I can either right click on it, and that's going to bring up some preset colors. Okay. Or I can click on this button, left click, and then I've got my rainbow along the right hand side, so the children can select their perfect shade. Now, from an accessibility setting, in particular, I'm thinking about children with dyslexia, that can be quite helpful. If they find reading black on white difficult, you could show them how to do that, and they can manage their own page color quite quickly and easily. So, you know, some of my children quite liked pale blue, or they would wear different colored glasses. This might alleviate some of that reliance on that kind of stuff that points them as different from their peers. Okay, so there we go. So that is my background. I'm going to add some text now, and what's nice about JIT Write is I can click anywhere on that page and it's just gonna, my cursor's going to start. I don't have to click into a text box, or I don't have to add text into a text box and then move the whole text box. It has free formatting, so I can just click anywhere. So I'm going to say how to stay safe online, because that's always a topic for this term, isn't it? How to stay safe online. So there's my title. It doesn't look like a title yet, so I'm going to double click on that text, and that's going to allow me to edit that. So I can either drag those blue boxes, make that bigger, or I've got my editing options along the right, so I can change how that looks. I've got different fonts that I can choose, and some of them look better than others, and I've got my different standardized sizes. I can even change the size of that box by kind of dragging on the sides, and I can move it around and put it on a jaunty angle if I wanted to. There are all sorts of different options for this. Oh, there we go. There we go. I can add it into a border. I can fill that, and I can change the color of that box. Okay, so there's lots of different editing options here. So that's how we add text. Then I can add in pictures. I'm going to click on the wee green man, as Mary calls him. Just helps people to remember. That is the pictures tool at the top. Mary is our Northern Irish consultant, before anybody comes at me. So that's why she calls him the wee green man. That will come up into your My Files. So anything you've added in your My Files, you can drag over. So the children can create their own JIT paintings and add it into JIT Write. You've got the option to choose file. So you can choose somewhere externally. So maybe they've created an Adobe image and saved it as a PNG. They can add that in. They can take photographs directly into it. This won't let me. Oh, it has. Normally it doesn't if I'm streaming, so I can add a photo onto my page if I wanted to. So if you wanted to do an all about me, for example, they can add their selfie. And we've also got the option here to search. So I'm going to have online. Let's have a look what comes up with online. Okay, and I've got some online. Let's see what that looks like. Well, that's a good start. Sometimes they do disappear if they pass through a safe search, but if they are copyrighted, they may disappear. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to make that picture a little bit bigger. I can crop it if I want to by using those blue boxes at the corner. And there we go. Okay, and there's the beginnings of my How to Stay Safe Online poster. The last thing we can do is add in some audio, which is done up here through the multimedia button. Okay, so if I click on that, I've got record sound, and that's where they can add in some sound bites. So let's just add this in. This is my poster on how to stay safe online, and I can add that onto my page. Let's add it there, and that will play when I press the play button. Just have to wait for it to upload a little bit. It's not very quick today. So that should upload onto my page. And then they've got the save button just there. So that's going to save into their My Files. Obviously, if they save anything into their My Files, they can then come back and edit it. So this may well be a 2 or 3 lesson activity. So the children can save it and come back and edit later on. I don't know why that's taking so long. Let's cancel that. But it is. Okay. Now you'll also have well, you may or may not have, and there'll be a reason for this, but on mine there is a publish to journal button. So I am going to talk about journal in a second, but in JIT and J2 Create will be the publish to journal button. If that's not showing on your screen, if you are, having a go as we sort of talk, don't panic. It will be because you don't have a journal linked, or nobody's created a journal. Okay, so that only shows when there is a journal for you to add into, if that makes sense. I'm going to talk about journal in a second. Okay, but that just makes it a lot easier to upload content. Now, there are a number of different live lessons that are looking at J2 Create. They may be listed as J2E5 still, so you might need to just I refer to them as J2E5, but we are doing quite a few this term. I think we're doing at least 2. One of them is that activity we've just done, creating a digital safeguarding poster. So that is coming up in a few weeks. So yeah, have a look at those and register for those live lessons. So here's just some cross-curricular examples of J2 Create. We've got a hyperlinking solar system. So this was a live lesson. I thought it was going to take me through to the example, but it hasn't. So you can stream that. Science investigations, mind maps, and column addition. These are all activities you can find in the library. So I'm going to show you the library in a little bit. But those are pre-made templates that are made in J2 Create. Okay, we're going to have a little chat about J2 Journal. As I said, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of how you create a journal, because we are doing a full, I am doing a full training on Monday at 3:30, so you can book onto that via the teachers area. But just to make you aware that J2 Journal is a fantastic tool for being able to collate evidence of digital learning in one space. So you can tag children against pieces of work, and you'll end up with a feed of pieces of work that the children, that demonstrate certain levels. So this is different from their My Files. So if you imagine the My Files is much like just a book with all the rough work in it, whereas J2 Journal would be your best pieces of work. It would be the equivalent of your display board in class. Okay, so it's all the things that the kids have worked really hard on that demonstrate that they've achieved something. Okay, so it allows you to collate evidence in a digital portfolio. You can sort and filter using folders. You, the students and parents, can comment. It's visible via the parent portal if you choose to use the parent portal, but you can use it on its own. And JIT and J2 Create have published to journal features. As well as that, we have refined it over the summer, so you can tag it against curriculum frameworks, including Hubs, DCF, and the SEER targets. So those are all in there. So just to show you an example, this is a P1 class, and we can see Esme's created a lovely photo. You can see Rosie's created some maths work, some phonics work. Now, what's important to point out is the children that are tagged are the only children that will see each journal entry. So, for example, this is Rosie plus Willow. Only Rosie and Willow will see this particular entry on their journal feed. Okay, likewise, the parents, they will only see work that is tagged. So only Rosie and her parents will see this particular piece of work. Okay, and you'll end up with a nice feed, which means as the year goes on, you can stream according to a particular child. So we can see all of Rosie's digital work. Or if you decide to use the folder structure, which I'd highly encourage you to do, you can create a folder structure of your choosing. So we could have a look at digital artwork, for example, and that's showing me all those pieces of digital artwork created by Rosie. Okay, so hopefully that seems of interest. Sometimes this can be a little step forwards. You know, if you are brand new to the site, I would recommend just getting the feel of the content creation tools such as JIT and J2 Create before you then start thinking about J2 Journal. But if that's something of interest, come along to the training on Monday or book an appointment with me and I can go through it on a one-to-one. Okay, we're almost there. There's a lot to get through. So lastly, I'm going to talk about the library before I open the floor to questions. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat whilst I'm just talking about library if you want to. So the library is here at the top of your screen. Sometimes it gets missed off the Launchpad because it's not one of these tiles, but it's up here. There are 3,000 resources in there, 3,000 plus resources in there. Tagged against all different age groups. So, you know, if you're working with a particular age group, which I'm sure you are, and subjects. Okay, so if, for example, we want to look at computing, which is our ICT equivalent, you'll see there's lots of internet safety activities, staying safe online. We do a lot when it comes to Safer Internet Day in February. Santa, we do a lot of Christmas activities as well, database, coding, information. So there's lots of resources ready to go. Now, if you find a resource that you like, you can click in it. It has some instructions. It may or may not have some teacher notes. So you will be the only one that sees the teacher notes. Okay, the students won't see this. And the students won't see the teacher attachments either. They will only see the task. So if I click in this task, that is the activity ready to go. So this is what the children will open and they can click and start answering. It's much like a digital worksheet. Okay. Children will only have access to content that is shared with them. So if you find a resource that you like, to share it with your students, you can click the share button there. You can share within a class, so individual users. So if you are or you have a teaching assistant that only works with a couple of children, you can set that for specific users. Maybe you've got a lower group or a higher group. You can set those tasks for those students, or you can set for a whole class. Okay, you can set for numerous classes. So if I click OK, that now I should have done this before I logged in. There we go. I'm going to log in as my student to give you an idea. Here's Lottie. So Lottie would access that piece of work through the library. There's that staying safe online. You can see these are hand-picked by teachers. I can click on that. You can see there's no teacher notes, just the instructions. And we can click and Lottie can have a go. So let's say I can find any. Okay. And then she can click save, and that is going to save a copy of that into her My Files. So as a teacher, I can access that. So I'm going to go back to my teacher account and I can go into my Pupil Files. I can go into class 1. I can go into Lottie. There's that e-safety activity that she's just completed. So that is a really nice way of getting to grips with Just Too Easy, getting the kids used to opening up files, editing and saving with minimal impact on you as a teacher having to create and set work. Okay, there's some really nice activities in there. So have a look at those library resources. I just kind of gave you a sort of an overview of things that I thought might be useful for this particular term. There's lots and lots of writing frames in there. We've got some nice autumn activities. So that's a nice verbs autumn activities using JIT Paint. And in fact, there are lots of autumn activities. So Halloween's coming up. There's some autumn pre-writing activity. So great for mouse skills or getting the kids to use styluses on iPads. Fireworks activities, autumn tally charts, how many owls, word searches. There's all sorts of activities on there. Okay, so please have a look when you get a chance. Last thing to say about the library is you can star any of them. So that is liking the resources. So those will come up in your liked resources then. So it just means if you see a resource and you think that's brilliant, but for autumn 2, I don't need it just yet, just star it, and then you'll be able to access that through your liked activities later on. Okay. Last few little bits before I open up the floor. Contact details, edteam@jitwrite.com. So that comes through to me, Charlie, and Mary, who are the educational consultants. So one of us will get back to you. So that's for any queries that you have. Facebook, X, we are on both, and Instagram. Those are our handles. We post a lot on Facebook. We do a lot of advertising, less so on X, but we are sort of trying to tie that up a little bit more. So we do a lot of training, advertising, competitions are on there. So have a look. And that is our YouTube channel. So if you don't want to go through the teachers area, you can go through and look for Just Too Easy TV. And that's where you'll find all of the training and all of the videos. So for once, I am amazed, but I have finished 4 minutes early. I don't think this has ever happened. I'm not quite sure how. So has anybody got any questions?